Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Bennett from One Plus One. Today, we're going to be talking with a woman called Karen Nelson Field. She's widely acknowledged as one of the world's best media scientists and researchers. And she wrote a really awesome book called The Attention Economy, which I've just read. And we're going to touch on a whole range of stuff, her entree into the world that she loves, best practice in measurement, and some really exciting issues that she's seeing, which are opening up off the back of AI. So check it out.
So I was a media girl. I did a PhD in audience measurement, stayed for 10 years, and it was a period of time when the Facebook wasn't even Facebook.
Mm.
And what it was an incredible time for measurement because of the disruption between, to your point, legacy surveys and legacy kind of, diaries and, you know, TV things and
Mm.
to, oh my gosh, how we're going to measure digital at scale. So it was an incredibly transformational decade. And so I was lucky enough to have my PhD was at that time, but I was also able to do my postdoc around, the reality of, the value of likes on Facebook, the value of, virality on YouTube, and then, I was hired actually by Unilever to understand the reality of viewability and its value to brands. So it was an incredible 10 years. What made me leave the university was the reality of this metric called viewability, which was fairly new at the time, meaning nothing to the
Mm.
reality of value to a customer. Very, very little. So I left the university and invested myself in a business that specialized in understanding whether someone's watching versus whether it was just served. And that included, building biometrics at scale. So that's the rest is history. So 8.5 years later, the business has been quite transformational in building an economy around a value exchange between the publisher and the brand. And to do that, it means to expose the reality of the measurement ecosystem that they have relied on isn't really serving. So impression versus impressions. I was the original not all reach equal quota. I made that up. So which is truth, but
Yeah.
it's stark.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean that's why I'm here.
If attention or measurement of attention is the illustrator in part of value, right? So if you're looking to try and determine how effective something was, you measure it, you come up with perceived value. It seems to me that ad land or the industry writ large is going through a pretty tough time at the moment. And I wonder if you could talk at a philosophical level about where the industry finds itself. And, there's a lot of layoffs going on. Multinationals are consolidating. What's your take on the broader picture of the state of the advertising industry in 2025?
Uh, that is a really deep question. One of stress because our dollars have declined, with the economic climate and the political climate, but one of excitement at the same time and hope because I think, and I know this is a buzzword, but you know, the the phase of exponential growth of AI, I think, is actually making advertisers a bit excited for opportunity. Costs are going down from a resource perspective in terms of creative generation. Um, there's a lot of AI, and we're in the same boat. So we build generative audiences. So there's a lot of AI that's affordable, that gives you more information. That means your ads can be better placed, more effective, more efficient. So I think it's a combination of both. From our side, what I see globally is two major trends. One is that the unification of creative and media. So I think it's worked very in isolation. Well, I know it has for a very long time. I've been in the industry for a long time. But there is definitely a push to innovation that joins the dots. And the second piece, which is related, is, building signals and data that informs your own AI models as they go forward. So I feel like It's a scary period because, there's been a retraction in ad dollars, but that's a lot to do with the American and the global political problems. So it's a very scary time for a lot of people. But at the same time, it's almost a rebirth, if you like, where, Trump's only going to be in for another, what, 18 months or something. And everyone's looking forward to the next phase after that and what the exponential opportunities are from, being able to, mm, I guess, capitalize on AI from a resourcing perspective. So a bit of both.
Mm.
And us in the same, pivot.
I saw there's a muckrack report out that suggests 89% of links cited by AI come from earned media. So, do you have a point of view on what that change is bringing about for brands and businesses?
Yeah, I think what's valuable about that is, but also got to watch it, is that, ultimately the generative AI era, let's not even think about agentic AI at the moment because that's still in development, but the generative AI side, I think it fills in the gaps. And what it means is, back to earned media, is, ultimately can pick up value, relevance, and serve audiences with information that is more likely to be unexpected. Essentially, unexpectedness is when whatever you've read or whatever you've watched doesn't fit your expectation. And
Mhm.
so you stop what you're doing to try and understand it.
Yeah, sure.
And you go, what? And so some are using it in a clickbaity way, but others are using it in driving more value exchange, where, because ultimately, as viewers of ads or of words, we want there to be an exchange of value. If you're going to take my time, I want to be rewarded with something that's valuable to me. Now, most advertisers think it's about, if I sell you something, it's valuable. Not always. Sometimes it's information and that I didn't know. So I feel like it's an exciting time for information dissemination because it means, if it's truth, because I feel like there's a lot more that adds value to my personal knowledge than ever before, than ever before.
Mm. What about, again, just your general thoughts on the imminent demise of legacy media? I was in Sydney last week and I happily bought a Sydney Morning Herald and enjoyed it. I don't know. Will they be around in 5 years' time? Um, the curated experience of connecting with a piece of media, whether it's a radio broadcast or a newspaper, are those things that are going to become artifacts in the next 5 or 10 years?
I can't help think that whatever my answer is might become next day's PR. So I'm a little nervous about answering that one. I don't think imminent demise is a fair comment. I feel like that is, with love, a bit sensationalist. I feel like innovation is vital. I feel like there's an an iteration of legacy that is happening in our ecosystem as we speak. And I see CTV in that space being one of those. I do know press as we know it has had a rough time. And, I think there's still more to be done with AI that, to your point, brings an experience that is more about me than it is about what the editors think it is. So
Mm,
I think it's getting there. I feel like the legacy, I mean, I worked for News Corp for a lot of years in my 20s, so I'm well and truly come from that background. I feel like they're a bit behind in the knowledge of how to curate experiences but I think it's slowly getting there. And I think the TV game is getting there faster than press, for example.
Interesting. It's interesting that you make that observation because here in New Zealand, I don't know about Australia, but the easiest way to still reach a mass audience of people is through the 6 o'clock news,
Mm.
genuinely. So would that be the case in Australia?
I think your idea of reach is very different to mine, is what I think. So you think that people are watching the news. I know what they are watching. And the reality of the survey data telling you how many millions of people are watching compared to the reality of the proportion of people that sit underneath that is very, very different. So I don't agree. I think news. There was something the other day. I was watching the morning. I
Okay.
was in around the morning news. I was getting breakfast or something, and I'd already, because I had my phone on me, I'd already heard about some massive. I mean, this is our world. Everything's breaking. I'd heard about some massive breaking news, and then 10 minutes later, it broke on the news. And so I feel like, you know, I'm not sure that the way to reach mass is necessarily the 6 o'clock news anymore. Um, what we do is we use biometrics to sort of understand how people engage with different ads and different formats, and then we're able to connect the dots to sales, to site visits, to attribution, to growth from there. There are two things that improve your potential to get attention. So there are what I call attention amplifiers. And there are two things that I call outcomes amplifiers, and they're two very different things. So, for example, I can get you a huge amount of attention on certain, I can tell you where to find it, but if it doesn't link it to a sale, or if it doesn't link it to your product, sorry, if it doesn't link to your product, or it doesn't link it to your assets, then you won't get a sale. So your attention is wasted. And so what you would have heard is, what are best practices for advertisers around attention amplification and outcomes amplification? And they need to be done in parallel. And one of the use cases that I talk to are Specsavers because they are geniuses at advertising, really. And, what they do from an attention grabbing perspective is they use what I've just kind of explained. So, unexpectedness and emotion, and they're not always intertwined, but emotion in their case is usually humor.
Mm.
Um, but they also use unexpectedness. So, unexpectedness is an interesting one because it's basically surprise. If you think about when you're driving a car, if in most cases you go, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I went through those stoplights. But if something came screaming at you, your awareness becomes you kind of snap back into attention. It's
Mm.
the same in ads, it's the same in education, it's the same in so many things. So we kind of all go through life just really just zoning out and not really paying attention to a lot of our surroundings. So if you throw something unexpected at an audience, they do stop and they do try and understand. So Specsavers in particular are owners of unexpectedness. I mean, their campaigns in that they have things that hang upside down and they have, weird little campaigns because you can't see. I mean, I'm partially blind myself, so I, of all people, get it. So it's funny and not so funny for those of us who are needing glasses as we're
I
aging.
think I think
But
Mark Ritson put something out recently that suggested as marketers, many of us are guilty of leaving things in the oven not long enough and whipping them out. And of course, Specsavers is an example of a brand that stayed true to a line and a positioning
so
for.
that's the second piece of the puzzle. So the two components of attention amplification are emotion and unexpectedness, but the two around amplification of outcomes is consistency and cues. And that's what you've just described. So they do that beautifully. They're everything they do is consistent. But you also the cues they use apart from the green logo is the should have gone to, but also the consistency and the cues around the unexpected ad. So their ad style is very cues based.
Mhm.
So that's why they're so incredible because they have managed to build something that's highly distinctive. It works, it's funny, it gets attention without a huge amount of effort, to be honest. So, yeah, they've got the mix right.
What's the most interesting thing, as someone that's been doing this for decades, what's the most interesting thing that's happened in the measurement space in the last 12 months that people watching this need to know about?
That you can measure what is seen, not what is only served. I mean, that's been coming for a while. For me personally, also the acknowledgement from the Media Ratings Council that viewability has its limitations and that measuring how people are viewing media, so instead of viewability, it's seenability. I
Mhm.
think that's a real testament to the group of us that have been advocating for change for many years. So I think for me, the most exciting piece is that the MRC have gone, yep, actually, there's more to measuring digital assets than, you know, whether it was on screen or not.
Yeah, and with AI and everything that is coming or could come off the back of that, do you see this particular period in your career as one of the more exciting and hard to fathom? What is your take on the present pressure points presented by AI?
For us, I can't release on public forum right now what we are working on because I do need for it to be properly released. But let me put a marker in the sand that what we've worked out how to use AI will change the ecosystem again and will mean that a lot of the vendors that are focusing on fairly rudimentary metrics will fall out. So I am pretty excited about the next phase.
Awesome. Karen, thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you. We appreciate your time. Cheers.